look at what we've got. You notice, number one, you've got a squared, you got an xy, you got an a squared and an xy, right? Okay, those are different terms, all right? This is called a binomial. It has two terms, okay? And they are different. You're used to something being more like 5x plus 3. That is a binomial. Well, now it's just a little more complicated binomial. All right, we've got, so binomial, okay? We've got something that says 3a squared plus 12xy. That is also a binomial. Binomial, okay? All right, when you are, because this says subtract the second binomial from the first binomial. When you are adding, subtracting, you can only combine, and I keep using this word, you can only combine like terms, okay? And in a binomial, you have two terms. One term is 3a squared in that binomial. The other term is 12xy, okay? So you can only combine 12xy with something else that has an xy attached to it. You can't combine it with just something that has an x, with just something that has a y when you're adding or subtracting. You can only combine quote-unquote like terms, all right? Remember that now we're looking at adding and subtracting integers. We also are looking at multiplying, okay? So when you multiply a negative times a negative, what do you get?
Positive.
A positive. And when you multiply a negative times a positive, what do you get?
A negative.
You get a negative. Well, when you're looking at this, all right, it's saying subtract, okay? And it's giving you two terms. So let's look at this first term. This first problem, number one, okay? It says you have 3a squared plus, and I'm going to do the first one kind of drawn out, all right? And after that, I'll not do it so drawn out. I'm going to write the problem that I have first, okay? AXY. Okay. What this is really saying is the reason they have the comma here is because I'm going to combine these, but they're not only asking you to combine them. Combine them would be to add them together. They're asking you to subtract the two terms. So I want you to look at the two terms more like this. Parentheses, 3a squared plus 12xy, parentheses, subtract, parentheses, negative 2a squared plus 8xy. Because this is one term, this is another term. Okay? Ooh, no, it has been recording. Okay. All right. Now, whenever you have a sign like this, outside of parentheses, remember we're lazy. What does that mean? What's there? Okay? That one that we leave off. Okay? You can think of it that way because to me it's easier to think of it that way. Or you can just think of it as you have a negative sign and then you have a negative sign that gives you what? A positive, correct? Or you can look at it as I put a negative 1 out there. I've got a negative 1 times a negative 2. Now what do I have? A positive 2, don't I? Okay? So I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to rewrite my term 3a squared plus 12xy. And I'm going to do this math up here. If and I'm going to combine these now. And I'm going to have a negative times a negative, which gives me a positive 2a squared. Here I have a negative times a positive, which gives me a what? Negative 8xy. And if you see, I have just set up, if you didn't have all those variables there, this is just like 3, and you're going to add, because you only can do the combined, you've got 3a squared plus 2a squared, and what do you end up with? 5a squared. Now I have a positive 12xy, take away 8xy, and what do I end up with? 4xy. Positive 4xy. So that's my answer. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to write my handy dandy little answer, 5a squared plus 4xy. Okay? Now I'll show you cutting one step out, because I think we can cut one step, all right? Number 2. Okay? I've got a negative 3p squared plus 2q squared r, and then I have a comma, then I have p squared minus 3q 2r. Okay? So instead of rewriting it again, I'm going to put my parentheses, I'm going to put my negative sign and my parentheses. Now I'm just going to come over here, and right underneath this one, I'm going to have to do plus a negative times a positive gives me a what? And you're going to want to put that 1 in there when you don't have it, because it's going to help you remind you how many you have. All right? So a negative 1 times a positive 1 changes it to a negative 1p squared. A negative 1 times a negative 3 changes it to a what? Positive 3q squared r. Now I'm going to combine them. Okay. So now I have, and there's no borrowing, there's no carrying, okay? Because you're not going to, even if you got 15 over here, you're not going to put the 5 down and carry the 1, all right? Because they're different terms. So you can just do it from left to right. I have a negative 3 plus a negative 1, and what do you end up with? Negative 4p squared. You have a positive 2 and a positive 3. What do you have? Plus 5q squared r. And there's your answer. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to put negative 4p squared plus 5q squared r. Everybody okay with that? All right. I want you to try the next one, because this is not only our notes, this is your work. So I don't want to keep going, because then I'm going to do all your practice. So I want you to try the next one, and then I'll let you check it from my answer, okay, and see where you're at. And if you need some more help, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit back at that table, or I will be more than happy to sit back at that table and work with you, okay? But where you don't see anything, I would go ahead and put that 1, and maybe you want to put that 1 before you even write it, so that you remember that 1 is there, okay? Here, there's one here, right here, that's got a 1, okay, that you need to enter. So, and all of these, none of them are missing, so missing terms. When we get to a trinomial and a binomial, then you'll have things missing. But for now, everything is going to line up pretty well, okay? So try the next one, and then check your work on mine. And then if you need some more instruction from me, then I will sit back there and help you, okay? Whenever you subtract, you're changing the signs on the second term, essentially. And then you're just combining them, okay? And that's it for today.